I think I'll cut out most of the historical context, because we all know the history of psychology and, and how it grew after World War II, and how accreditation got involved in the training of clinical psychologists, and the need for people who actually knew how to do stuff in APA accredited internships, how that need grew. So, but how did we get to where we are today, where we have to start eliminating psychology internships that fill an important gap, both, fill an important need for our doctoral programs, our students, and our communities? How did that happen? So, up until very recently, we had a shortage of training opportunities, and we had the big internship imbalance. So from my reading of the APIC tables that have come out, one of the major ways that the APIC imbalance has disappeared, and the gap between the number of training opportunities and the number of people seeking training, is that we reduce the number of people who are seeking training. So that's one solution, but alternatively, we could put our heads together, think creatively, and figure out how to get interns in the position to train while providing services to those people in our community who need those services the most. And if we look to the founders of NCSPP, and which is one of the goals of this conference, we might be able to make use of their wisdom. So let me read just a little bit of what Don Peterson wrote in 1997. This will sound familiar, even though it was written 20 years ago. What are the most urgent needs that we see about us? Does anybody have any trouble naming them? Preventative, cost-effective health care, alternatives to hospitalization for the severely mentally ill, reducing drug abuse, alcohol abuse, substance abuse of any kind, decent nurturance for children who lack stable families, strengthening families wherever that is possible, better schooling, more productive business practices, alternatives to violence on the street, in the home, wherever it happens, reducing the bigotry on which ethnic violence is based. So the problems in society remain, and they're pretty stable. And Peterson continues, has science told us how to solve these problems? Of course not. People hanker after simple solutions to immensely complex problems. Drugs? Just say no. Crime? More prisons. We need to face the most serious problems confronting the people in our society now, and this is according to Don Peterson. But we need to do so in a spirit of intellectual modesty that approaches awe. We need to join in cooperative action to share the experiences that we are gaining. So let me tell you, as someone who actually was at the Department of Education, what they actually said at NACIQI after we finished our presentations. They said, when we certify accreditors, which we do, and we certified APA to become an accreditor of doctoral programs and internships, we actually didn't realize we were giving them monopoly rights and over determining what are the standards and what, the ways psychology should be conducted. As a matter of fact, we didn't mean to do that. They have no position on whether there should be 50% APA accredited internships. They have no position on most of this. It's not in their purview. But the one thing they were concerned about is that it is not their mission to determine what should be the one true way of achieving achieving competency as a professional psychology or any or in any field. They're not there to create monopolies. And that's what we risk doing by paying, too much homage to this 50% rule. Now, it's not 100%, but which is something. But the fact is that it misses the point that what we should be paying attention to are the learning needs of the students and the needs of the community. So, does anybody do that? Does anybody pay attention to learning needs and the needs of the community? Well, it turns out that the state of California, even 5 and 10 years ago when they were in their bankrupt state, decided that they would put their money where their mouths were, and they wanted psychologists to join the public mental health system, and they were willing to give grants. So, and the grants that they gave allowed CAPIC to distribute more than $5 million to young psychologists who were providing services to California's most underserved populations. So that, it's not like there isn't an organized group of people in the, of government officials who are looking at this problem and are saying, that somehow CAPIC internships are not adequate. In fact, CAPIC internships are perfectly adequate to help solve the problems in California, and I think would provide an excellent model for other places, around the country. And so the question is now, how do we get from where we are now to a system that's going to make more sense in the long run? And how can we somehow marshal the resources of NCSPP and of our doctoral programs and our of the professional psychologists who are here, whose major responsibility has to do with training the next generation of clinical psychologists. How can we marshal our resources in order to get from this place where we are now to make sure that we can continue to train clinical psychologists the way, the way that the founders of NCSPP and the way that most of us would like to be able to work. And I know that this impacts people who are looking at me, right? A couple of the people who are looking at me now personally, because, and I don't know if anybody has anything they would want to add.
Just that we're continuing this conversation with APA, COA, APIC, as well as with the NACIQI personnel. We felt it's really important to use the proper procedures, to go to the public comments, put the public comments in there, but it wasn't working, so we went to NACIQI, and they did hear us. They had limited abilities of what they could do, but they did have, I thought, really positive conversations with the APA, COA representatives who were there.
I'm curious what they did say, or what explain that they said to you that they hadn't meant to create this kind of monopoly situation, but what did they tell you about what actions could they take, say, potentially?
Well, a couple of things. One is, it just went in and out of my head.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's all good. One thing they talked to APA, COA is like, well, how about getting a third party, independent party involved in this process? And APA, COA representatives said, well, we do have this public comment where anyone, stakeholders, third parties can make comments. And the committee said, no, where can you get a third party independent, someone outside your specific sphere of influence to give independent judgment and ideas to you? And they said that, well, we welcome them, but then we haven't heard from them since. So the committee members were very much aware of by giving this stamp of approval to APA, COA, it essentially, well, then what about all the ones that don't have that stamp of approval? And they asked, well, can't we become accredited? And we can't, because the way we're constituted, we've got more internships than we have academic programs. That the Department of Education represents academic institutions, so if we were more academic, we would have qualified, but because we're more internship, we don't qualify to become an accrediting body recognized by by Department of Education and CHIA. So they've went over backwards trying to see how they could help us, but they did also talk with representatives from APA COA to see how can these concerns be addressed. And it wasn't just us. There were students from CIIS, students who had concerns about the process as well.
And there were other groups. The fact is that I don't think that they had really crystallized this issue as, oh, this is a problem. Because if they've never heard from anybody but APA, they wouldn't know that it was a problem. And I think it was, so we see this, part of the reason that we call this to NACIQI and beyond is because going to NACIQI, I mean, we had to screw up our courage to do this, but we did it. But it's only the first step. And APA is going to be reviewed by NACIQI quite regularly because there is this great potential for conflict of interest when the professional organization is making the standards for the educating bodies. That's not the way it's done with medical schools. The AMA does not make the standards for accreditation of either the medical programs, educational programs, or the internships. They're all separately accredited, and the standards do not come from the professional association. And you can see how there's a possibility for conflict of interest when you do that. So it's something that the Department of Education, looks at quite quite carefully. And they really I think this was the first time this issue really dawned on them that this was a potential problem. And I think that we're only beginning the process. And part of beginning the process was to go to our home professional organization, which is NCSPP, to try to gather other people's thoughts. And I think that there is actually, my sense of it is that there is a sense of gathering steam that what NCSPP should be doing is supporting a structure that's going to help us develop a local internship training options. And there's nothing magic about saying that quality exists because you're APA accredited. It's more complex than
Well,
that.
certainly there was a lot of talk this time at NCSBP about the importance of local training and working in one's community.
Right, there's someone right behind you.
I just want to add and perhaps support what you're talking about. I work at your university now,
Yes.
but I was trained at Argosy University in Miami campus, and I worked for the institution both at their Miami and San Juan campus.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the bigger issues is, from our perspective, when I was faculty over there and working on our self-study, is how do we explain this unique culture that is Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory